Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining me. So today, before we even get started, let me ask you a question, okay? What happens when good providers get caught between compliance and care? I want you to think about that, okay? And I'm not talking about bad providers. I'm not talking about fraudulent providers because I know right now everybody want to talk about fraud. I'm talking about good providers. The ones who actually do care. The ones who answer the phone after hours. The ones who actually stay up late. The ones who show up. The ones who are actively carrying more than they should. What happens when those providers get caught between compliance and care? And I want you to hold on to that question. Because we're going to actually come back to that question, okay? But first, before we go even deeper into that, I want you to meet somebody you probably already know. Her name is Frantic. And before I describe her for you, ask yourself, do you know her? In the morning, she scoots to the edge of her bed. She's already tired. Before her feet hit the floor, her brain is already moving. What new clients start this week? Ah, I'm gonna have to train a new staff if the new clients are starting this week. I have to read the case plan. Where did I put the case plan? She's mentally reviewing schedules before she even brushed her teeth. She's checking her messages before she says good morning to her family. She's thinking about staffing issues while she's packing the kids' lunch. She didn't show up last night. Let me make sure I put water in this lunch. If she didn't show up last night, I wonder if she gonna show up this night. Oh, forgot apple butter. I can't pack peanut butter for the school. You can't take peanut butter. It's the policy. Maybe I could swing to the grocery store before school starts. And then the kids start talking. Mom, can we have pancakes? We never get to have pancakes before school. Linda says her mom always get them pancakes and orange juice before school. And you thinking, I'm not Linda's parents, right? But you say, not today, sweetheart. There's bagels in the fridge. Pop one in the toaster. I hope Amanda show up for her shift tonight. Maybe I should map out the schedule real quick. Now she's rushing her kids to school, trying to make it to the office on time because today she's finally going to catch up. Today she's going to review all the documentation. She gonna make sure everything is up to par. Today she gonna complete payroll. She gonna have all the books up to date. Today, today she's gonna get ahead. At least that's the plan. So she's driving the kids to school, and one of them casually says, "Don't forget about parent teacher conference tonight." Oh yeah, I know. She didn't remember. Because she already had planned that she was going to stay late at the office, and now she's trying to figure out how she's going to be in two places at one time. Frantic. Do you know Frantic? I know Frantic all too well. I actually remember one day pulling into my kids' daycare, and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm making good timing. It's 8 a.m. I'm gonna get to the office by 8:30. I was able to drop the kids off myself. I didn't have to get a nanny to take them. I'm doing good. Yes. A win is a win. And that's when I saw it. Why do everybody have on pajamas? It's pajama day. I had no idea. I didn't check the app. How did I not check the app? Now my son is about to be the only kid without pajamas, and instantly the story in my head starts. How did I miss this? Why didn't I check the app? I'm always forgetting something. But I can actually solve this problem. Maybe if I run across the street real quick, there's a Dollar General across the street. Let me check. Nothing. Not one his size. Now I'm looking at the clock, looking at the shelves, looking at the clock, looking at the shelves. And y'all, I began to cry right in Dollar General. Don't judge me. But it wasn't about pajamas. It was about feeling like I was failing at everything all at once. So I jump back in my car. I drive 5 minutes down the road to Family Dollar. And I get to Family Dollar and I'm hopeful. I'm searching and searching and searching. And behind all the sizes that were too small, there it was. I found it. And it's Spider-Man pajamas. His size. I remember holding those pajamas up in the parking lot thinking, okay, maybe I'm not falling at everything today after all. I got the pajamas to the school. My son wasn't left out. Everything was okay. Except it wasn't. Because now I'm late. Late getting to the office, late getting to the documentation, late getting to payroll, late getting to the books, late getting to the 10 other things that still needed me. And that's when I realized something. The frantic provider isn't failing because she doesn't care. She's failing because she's caring too much. And I wonder how many people watching tonight know exactly what that feels like. You're not committing fraud. You're just literally trying to survive the day. And that's why I want to come back to the question I asked you at the beginning. What happens when good providers get caught between compliance and care? Because I think everybody right now is focused on fraud when we're missing another problem sitting right in front of us. And I want to show you what I mean. I want to draw a Venn diagram real fast. Okay, guys. I'm going to show you a Venn diagram of what I'm talking about frantic and fraud. Okay? So we're going to, I haven't done a Venn diagram since school. Okay, my circle might need a little prayer. Well, bear with me. Actually, I probably should make this bigger. And I have to record this one on my phone, y'all, so Just give your sister or your cousin some grapes. All right, we're going to make this bigger because I want you guys to really see what I'm talking about, okay? So, we're going to do frog. Oh. All right. So we have fraud. We have frantic. All right. So first, let's start with fraud. Fraud is intentional, right? It's purposely billing for services that you didn't do. So we're going to put billing for services. What else? It's falsifying documentation. It's knowingly violating standards. What else? In a nutshell, fraud is deception, right? We can all agree. Deception. But let's talk about frantic now. This is fraud. Let's talk about frantic. Because I want to show you guys something, okay? Frantic is staying up until 2 a.m. trying to fix documentation. Frantic is correcting staff mistakes for the 3rd time this week. Frantic is trying to get your kid home from school while knowing you need to maintain ratio. Frantic is hanging on to employees that you know you been should have let go, but you can't take anything else on your plates. Okay, so that's fraud and that's frantic. Now we're going to talk about what's in the middle. Where do these two meet? Both are missing documentation, right? Both have trainings that's completed late. Both have supervision issues. And both can have background check issues because that could be the employee that you kept that you should have let go because you couldn't take more on your plate. Maybe it was because you need to let them go because they didn't complete their background check. Or it could be simple. You didn't get the background check back yet. And per the rule, you need to suspend that employee. But if you suspend that employee, it's going to be another thing on your plate and you just can't do it. So when you look at fraud and frantic, there's a lot of stuff in the middle. This is the gray area where the two look the same. And so you try to tell the auditor, "Oh no, I'm not committing fraud. That's not me." A lot of providers, we identify with Frantic, but we look similar. We have similarities to the person who's committing fraud. And we want the auditor to look at our intentions. No, it wasn't my intent to leave somebody on schedule that didn't have their background check completed. It wasn't my intent. It just was too much going on. It wasn't my intent. I know I needed to stay in ratio, but I needed to get my kid from school. It wasn't my intent. The training got completed late, but you don't know how much I had to do. It wasn't my intent. I keep trying to fix the mistakes. Auditor, staff keep missing the documentation. Auditor, it wasn't my intent. You want the auditor to audit your intentions, and the auditor cannot audit your hearts. And it's so important for you to be able to recognize this. But let's go back to the laptop. Okay, cousin. So you see the difference between Frantic and fraud, and you see how many similarities lie in between. And so we cannot ask the auditor to audit our hearts. How would they know our hearts? But that's what it comes down to. We want them to understand intent, and they don't have the capacity to be able to say, well, what was your intent? What was your intent behind the fact that documentation didn't get done? So that's why it's up to us to make sure we do the things that we need to do to carry out what's required of us so that we do not look similar to those who are committing fraud. And before we go any further, I want to make you a promise, okay? If you stay with me all 5 days, I'm going to show you why good providers become overwhelmed, why organizations become dependent on their owners, why growth sometimes create more pressure instead of more freedom, why some organizations survive success while others are crushed by it. And by Friday, you're going to understand what conditions must exist for an organization to consistently protect the people it serves without requiring the owner to carry everything themselves. Because honestly, I don't think that providers need any more training. I think that providers need to see things in a different lens. And that was the point of me doing the Venn diagram so that you can see, no, you may not be committing fraud, but it's not that different from the outcome when it comes to being frantic versus committing fraud. So I want to help you look through everything with a different lens, and that's what we're going to build together this week, okay? So you saw in the middle that there was a lot of similarities in the two circles because the outcome looked the same, and that's the part nobody really talk about, you know? Like I said, auditors cannot audit your hearts. All they can audit is your intentions. They cannot audit how much you care. They audit implementation. Implementation. That's what we're going to talk about a lot this week. Because that's the conversation I wish we were actually having. Not just how to stop fraud, but how do we create implementation? And before anybody get upset, this is not like I'm not doing this to talk about provider versus regulator, okay? I think that's one of the most dangerous conversations happening in the industry right now. They want to talk about who's right and who's wrong. The providers are just trying to do the things they feel like they need to do, and the regulators are doing the same. Regulators are trying to protect people and providers are trying to protect people. Families are trying to protect people. We are all trying to protect people. We're just carrying different parts of the same responsibility, right? The regulator sees missing documentation and the provider sees 4 call offs before lunch. The regulator sees late training and the provider sees a staffing crisis. The regulator sees the finding, the provider sees the conditions that caused the finding in the first place. So, what if the opportunity isn't choosing a side? What if the opportunity is understanding the gap between the two? Because honestly, I think most providers have good intentions, right? Majority of us aren't trying to commit fraud. That's not what we hope to do. In fact, I think a huge part of our problem, which probably sound crazy, but it's because caring without systems eventually turns into caring. So we care about our people, we care about our clients, but we care so much and we don't put systems in place, it turns into overwhelm. Most private providers don't wake up in the morning wondering how they can violate standards. They wake up in the morning trying to figure out how in the world am I going to cover this shift? I think they're wondering how they're going to get caught up on their documentation. I think they're wondering how they're going to handle yet another call off. I think they're wondering how they're going to keep serving people without dropping one of the 100 balls that they are already juggling. But that leaves us with a question. If good intentions are not the problem, what is? I think the answer is implementation. Because good intentions do not automatically create implementation. Good people do not automatically create implementation. Systems create implementation. Culture creates implementation. Conditions create implementation. And that's where I believe the real opportunity is. Because what I am describing tonight isn't a knowledge problem. Most providers know the rules, right? What I'm describing is a gap between knowing what should happen and consistently carrying out what should happen. There's a gap between the rule and the role that's required to protect it. And as I studied this more and more, I began calling it the rule to role gap. And over the next few days, we're going to talk about why that gap exists. Because I don't think most organizations are struggling because they don't care. I think they're struggling because implementation is so much harder than knowing the information. Every rule exists because something important needs protecting. A person, a family, a right, a standard, a mission. But rules are not what protect people. People carrying out the rules through their role is what protect people. And that's why I no longer believe compliance is primarily a knowledge problem. I believe it's an implementation problem. And over the next 4 days, we're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about burnout. We're going to talk about being the bottleneck in your organization. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about freedom. Because I don't think most providers need more motivation to follow the rules. Let's be clear. I think they need stronger implementation to carry them out without drowning. So before I leave you tonight, I want to ask you one question. If auditors showed up tomorrow, would they find evidence of good intentions or evidence of implementation? Because good intentions may start the mission, but implementation is what protects your people. Implementation protects the funding. Implementation protects the organization. And implementation protects the mission itself. So tomorrow we're going to talk about the reason so many good providers become the bottleneck in their agency, the very agency they're trying so hard to build. And cousins, if you know another provider who needs this conversation, I want you to go ahead and invite them tomorrow. Because tomorrow we're talking about something that sounds like leadership. It sounds like what you're supposed to do, but it's why so many good providers become the bottleneck in their organizations. And here's the thing, I don't think it starts with the agency, okay? I think it starts before the agency even exists. And I'm gonna talk to you more about that tomorrow so you can understand what I'm talking about. Okay? I hope tonight opened your eyes to the bigger problem at hand. And I'm going to dive deeper on that as we go over the next 4 days. Have a good night, cousin. I'll see you tomorrow.